Welcome everyone to the ASPA podcast. My name is Karen. Today we are with Alice Stinson. She's the Vice President and Partner at Clear Concept Consulting, and Rod Smith. He's retired Chief Technology Officer. Welcome, guys. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you mind tell us a bit about yourselves, about your background before we start the conversation?
Sure. Again, I'm Allie Stinson with Clear Concepts. Been working here for nearly 20 years. Background in technology and management consulting, and spent this last, our company's been in business 25 years, working exclusively with public school systems. So great pleasure to be here with you guys today. Rod, tell them about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Rod Smith. I'm a 30-year retired educator. Started my career as a classroom teacher, worked my way up to becoming an instructional technology director, and ended my career as the chief technology officer for the fifth largest school district in the state of Georgia. I am a problem solver at heart, and that's why I love technology so much. Although I'm retired now, I'm still find myself involved in helping to solve problems with K-12 school districts.
Okay, great. Happy retirement.
Thank you.
So to start, today we're going to talk about stronger teams and smart tech in school HR systems. So we know HR teams in public schools are often stretched thin. From what you've seen, what are the biggest day-to-day challenges they're dealing with, and how can the right tech really lighten the load without being a one-size-fits-all solution?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think this is so important. I mean, we're all stretched so thin, and HR teams in particular are trying to juggle so many different things from compliance to just helping support employees. And the right technology can help with that, but you can't just focus on the tech. You've got to focus on those processes and those workflows. We see a lot of outdated systems and maybe some siloed data, people keeping things on their machines and Excel spreadsheets and then doing workarounds with manual processes. And here they're sitting there going, we thought we had this technology, but if it doesn't fit how you work, it's not going to lighten that load for the folks. So focusing in on flexibility, making sure that your staff skill sets are well matched to make use of that technology. And then if your needs shift or something's not working, you can make adjustments versus, going, throwing up your hands and going, this isn't working at all, and we're just going to, start all over. You just got to know what problems you're solving and understand what your team dynamics are.
Yeah, for sure. So, and tech's only as good as the people using it, right? So,
That's
how can
right.
districts figure out where their HR teams may need more support or training, especially with constant tech changes and staffing turnover?
Yeah. So I think the key is understanding, kind of piggybacking on the last question, understanding what those end users really need and what those gaps are. And you do that with, in my opinion, with a constant feedback loop. You always have to bring those end users and managers to the table from a tech standpoint. We don't want to be the barrier between them getting their job done efficiently, right? So it could be that they're taking too long to log in. So how do we streamline that process from a tech standpoint? If they're forgetting their password on a daily basis, is there some kind of single sign-on solution that will help remove that as a barrier for them doing their job? Uh, we do understand that technology, and I've always said this, is not a silver bullet. It's mainly about people and processes and how do we make them better at doing their job. So the feedback loop, um, making sure that they are never frustrated with a task or a procedure. We need to understand that so that we can solve for that and make it easier for them. I think I answered that question.
Yeah, and I think you had a really good example when we were talking earlier of how this happened for you. Maybe you can tell them about that a little bit.
Yeah, so when you implement a new system, I'll give you an example of when we were implementing a new ERP system in the school district, right? And school districts have one main issue with staffing, in my opinion, and this is across all operational units where we don't always retain employees, and that could be for a number of reasons that we don't necessarily have to go into. But we started out this process of implementing a new ERP system where we felt like we had solved the problem. All of our end users in the beginning were using the system to make their job more efficient and do their job better. 6 months in, the mistake we made was not going back to those users on a regular basis to find out what challenges they were having. They had turnover, and after about 6 months, we found out that the end users were very frustrated, right? And they had gone back to a paper pencil Excel spreadsheet solution where all we had to do was maintain that connection with each of those divisions so we could find out what those problems were. It was basically a training gap, a learning gap. They did not know how to use the system that we set up for them. And these would be the new people who took the places of the staff that were leaving the district. So that's very, very important in my opinion.
And how big of a deal is it for HR tech to be easy to use and flexible, especially when your team has mixed levels of tech experience? Do you have an example where a user-friendly tool really made a difference?
Yeah, I will answer that. And I know Allie
Go
may
for
want
it.
to chime in, but in the district, that's critical. So one of the things that we did was we created these what I call um, learning in the flow of work, right? Where these very quick, simple videos that they could log into our LMS system, right? When a new person came on, or even if it was an existing person that forgot how to do a task, they could use this system to solve that very problem. Instead of sitting through a 45-minute training or a 1 hour training, these little modules, we call them little training modules, were there so that they could go to that module. Maybe I forgot how to uh, put a person into the benefits program, right? They could go to the benefits module and just learn that one thing for that one task for their job. And that eliminates them getting frustrated, having to go to their manager and saying, I forgot how to do this. So it doesn't slow down the process. Our end users are the most important. So perhaps that was a teacher who needed to be added into the system so that he or she could get to the school that day to get their classroom set up, to receive their email, so that they could start communicating with parents, right? We don't want to be the roadblock, and that's IT or HR. So we came together and we came up with that as an example. That's a great example of how we remove that as a barrier.
Yeah, I see with this whole ease of use thing, you get with your people selling technology and they always say ours is easy to use, right? Well, one person's easy is not another person's easy. As Rod was explaining earlier, IT knows how to work all this stuff, but then the end users struggle. And so when I think about ease of use, I'm always going, is it relevant? Show me only the things that I need to see on the screen to accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish. And then is it predictable? Does the same thing happen every time? Or are you switching things on me? The save button's here at the bottom and now it's at the top, or now it's over here, or now it's called update instead of save. Those sorts of things cause the end user to be less confident, insecure in what they're doing. So between having it be relevant and predictable, and then exactly what Rod said, having these sort of point of use guidance where you can quickly and easily get that refresher on how to accomplish a task so that you don't get bogged down in the user manual or having to go find a manager or an IT person to tell you how to do something can keep things are moving fast in HR and school systems. You got to keep going. And if you start to feel like you don't have command of your job and you are stuck and then you're starting to make workarounds and the technology is not as effective.
And a lot of districts jump into buying tech before even really understanding what they need. From your experience, how important is it to get your processes in order before ever thinking about tools?
So I'll jump in and take that because we've been through that process, right? So, the very first thing you do and I'm a big design thinker, Karen. So the very first thing that I do or we do as a team is we figure out what problem is it that we're trying to solve, right? Because again, Ali alluded to the fact that vendors will tell you their system can solve all your problems. And I don't know how they can tell me that when they don't really know what my problems are because I haven't really defined what those problems are. So you could buy 1,000 modules from one vendor where you only need three of them, right? So we go back, we come to the table, we figure out from an HR, finance, and business standpoint and tech standpoint, what do we need? What do our end users need? And for technology, my end user is HR and business services and finance. For HR, a lot of their end users are staff and teachers. So we define those. We send out surveys. We bring users to the table to ask them what frustrates them about the current system. What would they like to see improved in the current system? And then we go back and we write a comprehensive RFP or RFQ to put on the street so that we can then start to solicit those vendors and they can bring their solutions to the table. And then we vet those solutions, right? Show
Mhm.
us an example. Give us some references of some school districts that are using your tool right now. How well are they using your tools? How are their end users experiencing? Do you have any negative things that school districts say about your system? A lot of times that's a tough question to answer, but I find that the vendors who will tell you about the things that they struggle with are the ones that I end up trusting the most because they're honest about the fact that they may not have fully come up with a solution for that, but it's something they're working on. I tend to trust those vendors a little bit more. But you've gotta have a very well defined problem in order for the vendors to even provide you with a solution. And a
Yes.
lot of times school districts don't go through that process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Ali, maybe you have a good example about a district that clean up its processes first and then brought in tech, and how real improvements did you see
Yeah, this
there?
this happens. I mean, we all learn lessons, right? We go down a path and we're like, uh-oh, we've worked with the district. They jumped the gun a little bit. They went through a whole process to digitize their onboarding, forms without really thinking about the flow. We can get into our departments where there's HR or finance and we're only thinking about that department. But when you take something like onboarding, where all these departments are involved, you're hiring a new employee, and so you have to have, I mean, all their HR forms have to be done, but you also have to get them set up in payroll. You have to get them set up with their computers, their emails. All these different departments are touching that new hire. So what happened was after this was not going smoothly and we were still having bottlenecks, they came to, hit the pause button. We got involved to help them really map out those processes, figure out who's doing what, where does this go from here, identify the bottlenecks, see where the rework is happening, where people were doing double work, and fix all of that, kind of streamline all of that, and then overlay the technology on top of it. And it went so much better. I mean, they reduced the time it took to get people through all that process, enrolled in their benefits, getting paid, sitting at their desk, doing their work significantly. So that's a real important thing. I think we've done a webinar with you guys with a district too that you can probably check out on the importance of process mapping to help you streamline this stuff. I
Great. Yeah, that's
recommend
a good.
ASPA's webinars for that kind of stuff
Yeah,
too.
that's a great resource. So let's talk about teamwork. How does a strong partnership between HR and IT shape how successful a tech rollout is and how well it runs long term?
Well, I can tell you that a strong partnership is critical. And the way that we've managed that with two different school districts is steering committees with organizational leads for each unit. HR, business services, technology would have a lead for each of those groups. And we have these regular meetings where we're talking, especially at the beginning of a new implementation. And then you even alluded to going forward. Going forward, you don't dissolve that steering committee. That steering committee stays in place as a fixture. Some people call it a cross-functional team, which is fine. You know, moving from a steering committee where you're using it to decide what tools you're going to use and moving it to a cross-functional team where we have these regular meetings to discuss what's happening. Where are the breakdowns? We could talk about turnover in each division. Do we have training needs? We identify those things. And we're always in constant communication and staying in touch with what's happening in the district. So it's critical. I don't know that any school district or any organization could have a successful implementation or a sustainable implementation without having those teams to be cohesive.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you. And then, guys, to wrap up the conversation, when it comes to measuring success, what should district really be paying attention to? Not just with system performance, but also when it comes to staff growth and smoother operations.
Yeah, this is. I mean, we see this all the time, right? The organization spends big money on technology, and then you get down the road a little ways, and it's like we're still having all these problems, and we're not very efficient. And the management team's like, well, what did we spend all that money on? And it's like, so we've got to be measurable, so we know if we're successful. So again, going back to what we just talked about around process, if you've identified how long certain tasks take, what the error rates were, what the rework is. Now we can go back post implementation and measure. Have we saved time? Are the errors reduced? Are we doing less rework? All of those sorts of things are important. So what we recommend is obviously mapping the process, identifying the problems at the beginning, do your implementation, then down the road, remap it and check all those times and see if we have improved our time to do our task, because the technology is only as important as Rod says to the problems it's solving. If it's not solving those problems, we've wasted time and money that we don't have. And with that, I want to just kind of encourage everybody. We really want to get everyone's feedback. We're doing a survey to try to understand where everybody is in this process. So we would love for folks to go to clearconcepts.net/podcast, and our State of HR Tech and School System survey is there. We're offering a $100 Amazon gift card, enter in the drawing to complete our survey. A little incentive there, because we know time is, we might have to do this after hours or something like that. But we would love to get everybody's feedback on that.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. Thank you guys for joining us. It was a pleasure having you on.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.